Welcome back. This is the introduction to the course structure for Anthropology 105, Evolution and Human Behavior. And as you can tell from reading the syllabus and watching the introductory videos to the course, we're trying to answer one big overarching question. And that is, how might human behavior have been shaped by evolution by natural selection? Now, this question contains a couple of technical terms that we'll be discussing in more detail later, such as what is evolution and what is natural selection. But a simpler way to ask that question for now is, what predispositions might we have inherited from our successful ancestors? And when evolutionary biologists use the word successful, they mean successful in terms of reproduction and survival. Which individuals in the past survived to adulthood and then successfully reproduced? Individuals with those characteristics that make them successful have left ancestors today. So what types of behavioral predispositions might they have had that we have inherited as a result of their success? And I say predispositions because when we get to our discussion of different levels of selection, we can see that there are many ways to explain behavior, not all mutually exclusive. So when we talk about predispositions in terms of evolution by natural selection, we can think about general patterns. Now, some behaviors are more flexible than others, and this is certainly a discussion that we'll be getting into more in this class. Just for an example, let's see a picture of dung. Most humans feel disgust when they see, touch, or smell dung. This is an example of a behavior, the response to this stimulus in the environment. Our ancestors, who were successful at surviving and reproducing, most likely avoided items like dung that could cause illness and decrease their chance of reaching adulthood, finding a mate, or raising children who could then go on to reach adulthood and find mates themselves. Now, most humans everywhere find dung disgusting. However, when you think about dung beetles, they are attracted to the smell of dung. It's the smell of home. It's what they use to make houses. It's what they use to reproduce in. And so to a dung beetle with a very different psychology, a very different set of challenges that their ancestors faced in the past, we see a different behavioral response to the stimulus. So let's think about some more broader context that we'll be talking about in this class. One thing that we'll be discussing a lot is, how do people deal with their kin? How do we recognize kin? How do we interact with them? How do we help kin? Kin are some of the most important people in our lives, especially at young ages. And we will be discussing several theories explaining how we can expect kin to interact with one another. So this is a big problem that most of our ancestors faced. Everybody had kin. Everybody interacted with their kin. And how they did so could have affected their survival and reproductive success, which affects what behaviors we might have inherited today. Humans have also had to get along in groups for a very long time. There's a lot of challenges in group living. Sharing is one of them, so we'll be discussing reciprocity, how people give and take from one another, and also common pitfalls that our ancestors might have had to avoid, such as detecting who's cheating and how to deal with cheaters in the group. Another common problem that humans have faced in the past is finding a mate and getting married. Marriage is one of the few loosely termed human universals. Every society on the planet has some form of marriage. And this is a woman who's getting married to her husband. She's actually the third wife. And so this is a polygynous marriage system. These are the Maasai in Kenya. And so we'll talk about what are the challenges in finding a mate. What kind of decisions might people make when they're deciding whether to be a third wife or a first wife or not a wife or to take on an extra wife. There's a lot of behavioral implications at stake here. Another major challenge that humans have to face is obviously other humans. We don't always get along, and aggression is certainly an important theme. We'll be discussing coalitional warfare, aggression in coalitions or small groups, and small-scale warfare, and warfare in slightly larger groups, and how people fight and who they fight. Overarching all of these, we'll be discussing cultural variation and variation between societies. So we'll be discussing how humans are like one another in many ways and how humans are different. And one of the ways human groups differ in terms of kin recognition, sharing norms, marriage, and aggression is due to culturally learned behavior. And so we think about culture as another one of those elusive human universals. If everybody has culture, what might some of the evolutionary pressures on the capacity to have culture have been? And the overarching theme we're going to be using to look at many of these problems is cooperation, and why we actually see so little aggression. So that when you find yourself crammed on an airplane with a lot of other apes, why are we able to get along so well? Why are we able to live in these large groups? Why are we able to share as widely as we do? Why are we able to get along with so many other people? And there's implications for interactions with kin, for warfare, for interactions with mates. You have to get along with your mate or your marriage partner. And so these are the overarching themes of the course that we're going to be looking at. And as you can tell, there's a lot of great information here, and we're going to be looking at a lot of really interesting examples along the way. So a quick overview of the structure of the course. You're obviously most interested in your assignments. So let's see what we've got coming up. We have 17 small stakes quizzes. These will be 10 points each. There will be one quiz for each module, with the exception of Module 3, for which there are 2 quizzes. The quizzes will be covering the materials in your readings and the materials in the presentations, like this one. We will also be having 4 discussion forums. These forums can be called discussions, they can be called seminars. They're small group discussions that you'll be conversing about course topics with. Your first discussion is just your introduction, and that's Forum 0. Your second one is about evolution. What do you think about evolution? What has your experience been with it? And what is your background? So these are more about engaging with other students and using your knowledge of the information in the class to have a spirited discussion and really think more deeply with other students in the class about what this material actually means. So those forums will be broken down into 2 sections of 40 points each. You'll have an initial post, so I will post a topic that you'll be discussing. You'll create a post, several paragraphs long, about your response to that topic. After a day or two, when everyone has posted their initial posts, then you'll go back and you'll engage in some discussion and conversation with other individuals in your small group. So look for those under the Small Group Discussions tab. You will also have mini exams. These are my other way of assessing your engagement with the content of the course. There'll be 5 of them spread out over our 5-week, very short summer course. And these are weighted a bit heavier. These are 100 points each. So that leaves us with a total of, if you've been very quick with mental arithmetic, 990 points, which means that the introductory assignments due the first week are worth 10 points each. So your response to my start of class email and your engagement in, this is a Forum 0.0, the introductions are under here. So for a total of 1,000 points on the class. And my grading policy is outlined in more detail on the syllabus if you have questions about curving grades or extra credit or those kinds of things. That's found on the syllabus. You can always ask me questions or post a comment on the Ask a Question discussion board, which I'll be checking daily. How are these assessments and assignments scheduled over the course of the week and the course of the class? Well, your work schedule will be a weekly schedule. You'll be usually addressing 3 or 4 modules in the course every week. And the weekly schedule actually starts on Friday. Every Friday I'll be posting your assignments for the following week. This allows you to get a jump on assignments over the weekend, because coming up the following week we've got due date, due date, due date, due date. Yes, this is just like a regular course. You're expected to attend every day. There are items and assessments due every day, but you can work ahead, and this is key. So if you have an assignment due on Wednesday and an assignment due on Thursday, you can turn both of those in on Tuesday and have a 4-day weekend if you wish. As long as things are are submitted prior to the deadline, I don't care when you submit them. So some students have remarked that they can only work on the class on Tuesday and Wednesday. That's fine. Just be wary that there are some assignments due on Monday, so you'll need to take a look at those ahead of time. But most of the assignments can be finished on Tuesday and Wednesday if you're one of those students. So what you'll need to do is work out a schedule that works for you. Make sure that you don't miss any of these assignment dates. You can look them up in the schedule. They're listed in multiple places on the internet. Keep track of your assignments and keep up with the schedule. Because this is really a student-driven course. It's not a self-directed course because I'm telling you, you have to show up to class every day or you have to turn in your assessments on a regular schedule. So you can't wait until the last minute to do all of these things. And you can't turn in all of the assessments for the course at the very end. They're due on a regular period. After an assessment is due, it is no longer available and you will receive a 0 if you try to submit an assignment late. So you are responsible for submitting your assignments in a timely fashion. You are, and that's why this is a student-driven course, even though it's on my schedule, essentially. So as I said, you must find a time and location conducive to study, and I recommend setting up this schedule ahead of time, just as if you were attending a regular course on campus. Technology problems are not an excuse for late or missing assignments. All of the assignments are due at 11:59 p.m., but this does not mean that you should submit them at 11:58, because if your internet goes out or you have a problem with the document uploading, this is not an excuse for submitting late assignments. So always plan to submit everything at least 2 or 3 hours early, but you can work ahead. So the earlier you submit things, the more you'll stay on top of your work, the less you'll have to worry about, and you won't run into any of those last-minute technological problems. There are a lot of tech help points on the Blackboard site under Kendall's Tech Help. If you have any questions, you can also contact the lovely people at the Student Help Desk, and they can help you solve any technological problems also. And of course, you can ask me. I can't promise to solve your tech problems, but I can direct you to people who can. So your texts for the course, you have 4 texts. We will be reading Mothers and Others by Sarah Blaffer-Hrdy. This is a book mostly about cooperative breeding, and as you can see the subtitle, The Evolutionary Origins of Mutual Understanding. How people have gotten along with one another and how our history of being so interreliant on other individuals to help us raise our children has really shaped the course of evolutionary of our behavior over the history of the human species. This book is full of data and full of examples, and it's really well written and enjoyable to read. Our main theoretical book for the course is called Meeting at Grand Central Station. And this is really the key conceptual book that will introduce a lot of the theories, and it's more the broad level, how do we think about these problems in general book. You're also reading Yanomamo as a case study, currently in its 6th edition. And this case study is mostly about reproduction, competition for mates, and coalitional warfare. The Yanomamo have been nicknamed the fierce people, and in some areas of their territory, homicide rates are ridiculously high due to intersocietal warfare. A note about this book, the 6th edition has been assigned. If you prefer to read the 5th edition, that's fine. There may be a few differences in pagination, but it's essentially the same, and it's a lot cheaper. Finally, you're reading Peoples of the Tundra. This book is written by John Zeiker, a faculty member here at Boise State, and it's about an Arctic population. And the main themes in this book are subsistence and reciprocity. So 2 of those other key theories, and both Peoples of the Tundra and Yanomamo are specific case examples of 2 societies that we'll be using our theory to look at in more depth. So last, I'm sure you've been dying to know a little bit of information about your professor. I am Dr. Catherine Demps. Probably the most information on this slide for you is my contact information. My email, most importantly, katherinedemps@boisestate.edu. I expect your emails to be written formally. I won't accept any emails with text speak. You may address me as Dr. Demps or Professor Demps, whatever you prefer. I will be having office hours, yes, every week. Tuesdays from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. in the mornings, and Wednesdays 1 to 3 p.m. in the afternoons. I will be physically in my office during these times, so I'll be very quickly answering emails. I will be answering phone calls if you'd like to call my office phone. You can see the phone number there. If you are living in Boise, you're also welcome to come into my office during these times and have a chat in person. And finally, I can arrange a video chat with you through Google Hangouts if you can't come into my office but you would like to speak to me in person, and I can do some notes and writing and explain concepts to you. So please don't hesitate to contact me, especially during my office hours. I will try to respond to any email within 24 hours on a weekday and within 48 hours on the weekends. If something comes up and I'm unable to respond, I will try and let you know as soon as possible. So I am interested very much in the evolution of human behavior, and in fact that is my area of expertise. I am what you would call a behavioral ecologist. I'm really interested to know how behavior responds to local ecologies and what ecological situations elicit what behavior. So you can see me here doing some theoretical work. This work, it was looking at the evolution of culture and cultural abilities and how culture might have been a spark, cooperation might have been a spark to create the fabulous cultural abilities that we have. But I also do a lot of field work. This is me studying honey collectors in South India, and also at a communal fishing event in the Amazon with the Chimane people. I've also worked a little bit in Micronesia. And all of these places, I'm really interested in how people learn their behavior and how it responds to local ecologies. So I hope you understand a bit more about the course, the texts, myself, and the things we're going to be studying in here. That's it for today, and I'll look forward to chatting with you next time.